ng mga localized digitized self-directed learning modules at video lessons na tinawag na Video Broadcast Edition o mas kilala bilang DepEd Makati Vibe. Sa gawa ng pang-divisyong simulation class mula kinder hanggang senior high school, pati na rin sa special education, gamit ang Google Classroom bilang learning management system. Nagkaroon din ng simulation ng online assessment sa Google Classroom na nakitang mataas ang porsyento ng mga mag-aaral na pumapasa sa assessment na nagpapakitang epektibo ang paggamit ng learning management system. Sa ginawang pre-assessment, mula sa natamong 43.35%, ito ay tumaas sa 76.57% sa post-assessment para sa elementary. Mula sa 47.73% ay tumaas sa 61.44% sa post-assessment para sa high school. At mula sa 96% ay tumaas sa 98% sa post-assessment para naman sa special education. Ang mataas na porsyento na natamo ng mga mag-aaral mula sa pre-assessment kumpara sa post-assessment ay patunay na epektibo at may tulong na hatid ang paggamit ng iba't ibang learning modalities para sa distance education.
Huwag kayong mag-alala dahil dito sa Makati ay handa tayo. Makakaasa kayo na ngayon higit pa man ay nandito ang inyong pamahalang lungsod upang gumabay, sumuporta at magbigay ng edukalidad na tulong dahil mahalaga sa amin ang inyong pag-asenso bilang mga proud, productive at progressive Makati citizens.
Sama-sama nating isulong ang edukasyon sa lungsod ng Makati, SDO Makati Shine, Sulong Edukalidad.
Excited na ba kayo sa darating na pasukan? Narito ang pamahalaang lungsod at DepEd Makati kasama ang mga paaralan, mga barangay at community stakeholders na nagsama-sama upang itaguyod ang edukasyon sa kabila ng mga hamong kinakaharapan natin. Tatalakayin natin sa pamamagitan ng infomercial na ito ang magiging sistema ng pagtuturo at pagkatuto sa ilalim ng modular and online distance learning modality na nakapaloob sa ating Basic Education Learning Continuity Plan. Pag-uusapan din natin ang mga bahaging gagampanan o roles ng bawat isa. Ito ang siyang magiging gabay ng lahat ng mga sektor at stakeholders na magtutulong-tulong para matuto ang mga mag-aaral sa edukasyong new normal. Unang-una, ang mga paaralan ay maghahanda ng iba't ibang learning sessions at magpapadala ng impormasyon upang maihanda ng mga magulang ang kanilang mga anak para sa pasukan. Ang lahat ng mga guro ay sisiguraduhing may updated profile at master list ng mga mag-aaral upang matukoy ang kanilang profile, sitwasyon, pagkakaroon ng gadget at internet access. Ito ay makikita sa Learners Enrollment and Survey Form o LESF. Tatandaan lamang na regular itong i-update sa pamamagitan ng pakikipag-ugnayan sa mga magulang at mag-aaral upang makuha ang angkop na datos at kalagayan nila. Sa pamamagitan nito, alam ng guro at paaralan ang konteksto at sitwasyon ng bata habang siya ay nag-aaral. May nakikita tayong tatlong senaryo ngayong paparating na school year 2020-2021. Una, ang senaryo A na kung saan ang mag-aaral ay may available gadget sa bahay at stable internet connection. Pangalawa, senaryo B na ang mag-aaral ay may available device sa kanyang tahanan ngunit limitado ang internet connection. Panghuli, ang senaryo C na kung saan ang mag-aaral ay walang gadget at walang internet connection. Sa senaryo A na may gadget at stable internet connection ang mag-aaral sa tahanan, kukunin ng magulang ang learner's package sa paaralan at bibigyan ng access ang mga mag-aaral sa Learning Management System o LMS na tulad ng Google Classroom at Moodle ng kani-kanilang guro. Dito makikita ang mga instructional at learning materials na gagamitin sa pagtuturo ng asignatura o subject at siyang magiging learning platform. Ang mga mag-aaral ay isasali rin sa Facebook groups at group chats upang mabilis at epektibo ang daloy ng komunikasyon ng guro para sa kanyang klase. Kalakip ng Learner's Package ang mga printed copies ng self-directed learning modules, gabay sa magulang, at on-the-go OTG flash drive. Sa Scenario A, magkakaroon ng synchronous at asynchronous learning sessions ang mga mag-aaral, kasama ang kanilang mga subject teachers batay sa approved class program ng paaralan. Sila ay sasagot sa mga printed and online learning activities batay sa takdang oras na nakalaan para sa mga gawain. Siguraduhin na basahin at intindihin mabuti ang mga aralin upang magawa at masagot ng wasto ang lahat ng activities. Upang makita at mataya ang mga learners' outputs, ipapadala ng mga mag-aaral ang mga ito sa pamamagitan ng sumusunod: Gmail, Google Classroom, o FB Messenger. Ang mga printed modules ay hindi i-retrieve kada linggo, ngunit nararapat na ito ay ipunin o i-compile ng mga mag-aaral bilang comprehensive learner's portfolio na ipapasa sa takdang panahon. Ito ay maaaring ilagay sa plastic envelope o expandable folder kada subject. Sa kabuuan ng Scenario A, ang guro ay magkakaroon ng learning engagement sa mga mag-aaral upang iproseso ang nilalaman ng aralin na nakatakda kada linggo. Ito ay maaaring gawin sa pamamagitan ng iba't ibang metodo tulad ng FB Messenger, video lessons, Google Meet, YouTube, FB Live, at kung ano pang maaaring modality na madali para sa mga guro at mag-aaral. Gayunpaman, bilang bahagi ng programa sa edukasyon ng lungsod, maglalaan ng libreng 5 oras ng internet connection para makasiguro na may internet na magagamit ang mga guro at mag-aaral. Sa Scenario B, mayroong gadget ngunit limited ang internet connection ng mag-aaral. Ang ibig sabihin ng limited internet connection ay nakadata o mobile internet lamang ang bata, kung kaya't hindi niya kakayanin ang full online class. Dito, ang guro ay magpapadala ng ilang mga paalaala at direksyon sa pamamagitan ng alinmang platforms tulad ng FB Messenger, Gmail, Facebook groups, at group chats. Kailangang magamit ng maigi ng mga mag-aaral ang mga self-directed learning modules. Babasahin nila ang lessons at gagawin ang mga kalakip na learning exercises at activities. Dagdag pa sa pinabisang expanded project-free at learning package ay ang on-the-go OTG flash drive na naglalaman ng mga files, supplements, at learning resources na gagamitin. Tandaan, ang mga mag-aaral ay sasagot sa mga printed and additional learning activities batay sa takdang oras na nakalaan para sa mga gawain. Sa ganitong sitwasyon, nararapat na ito ay ipunin o i-compile ng mga mag-aaral bilang comprehensive learner's portfolio na ipapasa sa takdang panahon. Ito ay maaaring ilagay sa plastic envelope o expandable folder kada subject. Upang makita at mataya ang mga learners' outputs, ipapadala ng mga mag-aaral ito sa pamamagitan ng FB Messenger o kaya ng anumang mapagkakasunduang app. Dito, maaaring mag-usap ang guro at mag-aaral bilang bahagi ng feedback mechanism sa ilalim ng classroom assessment process na itinakda ng Kagawaran ng Edukasyon sa pamamagitan ng DepEd Order No. 8 Series of 2015. Sa Scenario C, na kung saan ang mag-aaral ay parehong walang gadget at internet sa bahay, gagamitin ang mga printed modules na kinukuha ng mga magulang sa paaralan. Babasahin, aaralin, at sasagutan ito ng mga mag-aaral. Inaasahan dito ang masusing paggabay at tulong ng mga magulang upang masiguro ang pagtuturo at pagkatuto ng kanilang mga anak. Sa pamamagitan ng Jeepney Makati Mobile Learning Hub Project ng lungsod, iikot ang mga jeepney, learning hub at teacher facilitator sa mga barangay mula Lunes hanggang Sabado. Sa paraang ito, maaaring maturuan ang mga mag-aaral ng mga teacher facilitators at makagamit ng mga laptops na may internet connection. Hangad rin ng nasabing proyekto na maipadala sa mga guro ng mag-aaral ang kani-kanilang mga outputs upang ito ay mataya at ma-assess. Kahit na sa ganitong konteksto o kategorya ang mag-aaral, hindi dapat siya may iwan. Matututo siya kahit walang gadget at internet. Nararapat lamang niyang gamitin mabuti ang mga printed modules, basahin at gawin ang mga hinihingi rito. Laman nito ang mga aralin at mga gabay para masagot ang mga kani-kanilang gawain. Naglalaman din ang OTG ng mga digitized at video lessons para siguraduhing matuto sila kahit walang internet connection. Tandaan, ang buong proseso ng pagtuturo at pagsasagot sa bawat module ay nakalatag para sa buong linggo. Sa paraang ito ay sinasanay natin ang mga mag-aaral na maging independent learners. Ngayon, tatalakayin naman natin ang mga bahaging gagampanan o roles ng sumusunod: school head o principal, guro, magulang o guardian, mag-aaral, at iba pang external stakeholders. Ang bawat isa ay may mahalagang gampanin upang masiguro na maging matagumpay ang edukasyon sa new normal. Ang punong guro ang siyang mamamahala sa buong proseso ng pagtuturo at pagkatuto sa paaralan. Siya ang magsisiguro na mayroong mga angkop na kagamitan at makikipag-ugnayan sa mga tao at institusyong may koneksyon sa edukasyon. Bilang principal, siya ang magpaplano at mangunguna sa mga gawaing diskarte at estratehiya upang maging maayos ang daloy ng edukasyon, tulad ng mga webinars, pagsasanay ng mga guro, pagkakaroon ng maayos na class program, maayos na takbo ng turo at iba pa. Sa mga guro, sila ang mangunguna sa pagtuturo ng mga aralin sa kanilang klase, sa pamamagitan ng mga modules, presentations, videos, at iba pang mga teaching resources na kanilang mapipili. Masisiguro niya na ang pagtuturo ay ayon sa MELCs o Most Essential Learning Competencies na itinakda ng DepEd. Sila rin ang magpaplano ng buong teaching and learning process, magsusulat ng mga modules, magtataya ng mga learning outputs, magbibigay ng feedback sa mag-aaral, mangunguna sa learning intervention, remediation at enhancement, makikipag-usap sa mga magulang kung ito ay kinakailangan, at iba pang gawaing pang-edukasyon. Para sa mga magulang at guardians, kayo ang magiging tulay at guro ng inyong mga anak habang sila ay nag-aaral sa loob ng tahanan. Kayo ang magbibigay suporta at tulong sa mga bata upang siya ay makapag-aral ng mabuti. Magtatakda ng magiging conducive learning space para sa bata. Dito sila mag-aaral, magbabasa at magsasagot ng mga kinakailangang pang-akademiko. Magtatalaga ng oras at magbibigay ng regular na patnubay sa mga bata. Makikipag-ugnayan sa guro kung may concern sa pag-aaral. Hindi kailangang maging maalam sa lahat ng subject areas para matulungan ang inyong anak. Kailangan lang na subaybayan at siguraduhin na naka-attend sila ng online class kung posible at natatapos nila ang mga gawain sa takdang panahon. Ang inyong pamamatnubay at pagsubaybay sa pag-aaral ng inyong anak ay ilalagay sa gabay ng magulang. Ito ang magsisilbing guidebook at monitoring journal ninyo. Ang external stakeholders tulad ng barangay, lungsod, barangay workers, community-based advocates, industriya, simbahan, at iba pang mga civil society organizations ay inaasahan na makikilahok upang masiguro ang tagumpay ng edukasyon sa new normal. Para sa tunay na bida at sentro ng ating pagsusumikap na maitaguyod ang edukasyon ngayong pandemya, ang ating mahal na mga mag-aaral, kayo din ay may katungkulan pagdating sa masinop at epektibong pag-aaral. Sa mga mag-aaral na makikilahok sa online learning activities, siguraduhing tumalima o sumunod sa general netiquettes sa itinakdang oras at attendance ng inyong pag-aaral. Magkaroon ng disiplina, mag-aral, magbasa, sagutan at kumpletuhin ang mga kinakailangan. Sa simpleng pagsunod sa mga tagubiling ito, hinding-hindi ka may iwan sa paglalakbay sa edukasyon ngayong taon. Sa panahon ngayon, higit na kailangan ang pagbabayanihan at pagtutulungan para maisakatuparan ang mga layunin ng BELCP. Tandaan, Ika nga, naniniwala tayo na it takes a village to educate a child. Tulong-tulong tayo na siguraduhin ang learning continuity sa lungsod ng Makati. Responsableng edukasyon, tatak Makatizen.
Please stand for the singing of the Philippine National Anthem, followed by the doxology and the singing of the Makati March. Here are the house rules for the division in-service training session across learning areas. For the opening remarks, our Schools Division Superintendent, Ms. Carlene S. Sevilla.
To our very good morning, Erica, to our very eloquent resources speaker this morning, Dr. Richard Gonzales, to Sir J. Makasheb, our ASDS, to our Chief SGOD, Ma'am Rose Ronco, to all our education program supervisors, public schools district supervisors, school heads, and of course, the reason why we are all here, to all our teachers. Good morning to all of us, and of course, welcome to our division-led INSET this morning. First and foremost, allow me to congratulate each and every one of you for a successful run of our BELCP for the first quarter. I think marami na po sa atin ang nakahinga ng maluwag dahil nairaos natin ang buong first quarter ng maayos po at matagumpay. And all this we owe to each and every one of you, especially our teachers and our supervisors. Because I think if you've been hearing the news and if you've been hearing feedback from other division, even from other region, you would know that Makati is one of the divisions who have successfully implemented the BELCP. But I think you know that we have a long way to go. Mahaba pa po yung tatakbuhin natin. We might have hurdled the first semester, but we have 2 more grading periods or a second semester to go. And we hope that we have made a lot of realization for the first quarter. Talaga pong maraming realization because we have struggled. We are forced to adapt, but by now, I think there are many plus and minuses in the way we are implementing it. One of the biggest adjustment is basically on assessment, hindi po ba? Because I think you would know right now and you would appreciate the idea that before when we have standardized assessment, madali pong malaman, di ba, whether our students are learning. And basically, this is the best validation for us to know whether what we are doing is effective or not. I have congratulated each and every one of you because of the idea na in terms of teaching, di ba, nairaos po natin ng maayos yon because our classes are going well, our engagement, online man po or modular, are all good. And I think the feedback, if there are is very good. Very minimal lang po talaga yung mga complaints and mga disadvantageous concerns of other parents and other stakeholders. But most of them, in terms of teaching, okay, di po ba? But the greatest validation on whether this modality works or whether this modality could be institutionalized later on is the idea on, are the students learning? Di ba? Kasi ngayon, yun talaga ang parameter para malaman natin na lahat ba ng ginagawa natin ngayon at gagawin pa natin ay talagang epektibo, lalong-lalo sa mga estudyante natin. Assessment is very important for us, especially our division-led assessment. Right now, if you notice, wala tayong DILIAS, wala tayong standardized quarterly exam, wala tayong national standardized quarterly exam. So we are depending on the assessment of each and every teacher in their own classroom. This task is basically downloaded or given to you kasi ang idea is kayo po sa ngayon ang nakakaalam at pinaka-nakakaalam ng kung ano talaga yung nangyayari sa inyong mga classes o sa inyong mga bata. Kasi kayo po talaga yung may engagement sa kanila. Therefore, the task of assessing and giving us an idea of whether our students are really learning falls on the hand of each and every teacher. Kaya napakahalaga po ng mga sessions natin on assessment. If you remember, when we rolled out the interim guidelines on assessment, isa po ito rin sa topic natin, integrative assessment. Because on the interim guideline, it says that this is one of the most convenient and the most effective way of assessing because it allows collaboration among the subject area teachers and it would entail lessening of load but the development of the same skills and competencies among our students. I hope that after our session before on interim guidance, you have tried it out na may nakagawa po nito, and I know that there are some teachers and some groups or subject area groups who have done it effectively. So kung nagawa po natin, today's session would basically be an enrichment of what you are already doing. So ito po ay makikita natin or in a way a validation or a reflection on whether yung ginawa ba natin ay tama at paano pa natin siya mai-improve. For those of you who have not done it yet, we would like to show you that this system of assessment or this kind of assessment is something that could really help you and your students. And we hope that for the next semester, this is something that you would want to try and to explore on. We know that times are difficult right now, and with the rising cases of COVID, I think we could not really go back to the face-to-face, even the pilot one, because of the situation right now. So we must maximize the modality where we are in now to ensure that our students are learning. And one of the most important aspect of basically teaching and learning is assessment. So we hope that through this session today with Dr. Gonzales, you will learn a lot. And basically for us to keep the things that are working, adjust the things that needs to be adjusted, and hopefully fill in the gap. So we could ensure that we have the assessment our students need and basically the assessment that we want so that we could ensure that our teaching and learning process are okay or are effective, efficient, and can be considered or later on institutionalized as a modality as well for the division. And of course, for us to have data or empirical data that would show that even in spite of the pandemic, even with this modality, our students are really gaining the knowledge, skills, and attitude that are required of the basic education curriculum. After po the talk of Dr. Gonzales, you will be engaged with your you will be engaged by your supervisors or subject area. So we hope that you could apply what we have talked about or what Dr. Gonzales will share to you in your own localized context as subject area. So ito rin po yung pagkakataon ninyo para ma-engage sa inyong mga supervisor, magtanong, magkaroon ng mga clarification, at hopefully later on magkaroon tayo ng way so that the subject areas that are connected can collaborate so we could create a very good portfolio of integrative assessment and other assessment that teachers could use in their own classroom. So we hope that you will have a very good learning experience today. Hindi man tayo nakikita ng face-to-face, I hope the webinar series that we are having with you are helping you a lot. At alam ko po na itong araw na ito, marami kayong matututunan with the limited hour that is given. Pero this is a full pack hour. So we hope that you would maximize the expertise of our speaker today. We encourage everyone to share experiences, to ask questions, so that later on po, we will have a very good learning experience. So on behalf of the whole ISDO Makati team, maraming salamat po. Continue the good work that we have started. And I know that no matter what happened, no matter what situation, SDO Makati teachers would always shine in whatever situation. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Thank you.
Dr. Richard DLC Gonzales is a staff consultant of the Asian Development Bank, a CIMEO Fellow, and an accomplished global education professional with wide-ranging international operations and policy experience working at the country-level Asia-Pacific, Middle East, and Africa, Asia, and with global initiatives. A strong track record in leading international teams and analytical work, setting strategic direction, program design, portfolio management, and managing complex education and social sector projects, especially in student learning assessment, monitoring, and evaluation. He is a licensed psychometrician and certified assessment psychologist with extensive experience working with international and multilateral organizations in the low, middle, and high income countries. He completed a PhD in education, major in research, evaluation, and cognates in psychology and industrial relations, a Master of Science in educational measurement and evaluation, and a graduate diploma in cognitive psychology. He is a former associate professor of psychology and education at De La Salle University, Manila, and professorial lecturer at UST Graduate School. Formerly a senior education specialist of the World Bank Education Global Practice for the Middle East and North Africa region. At present, he is the Chief Executive Advisor of InnoChange International Consultants, Inc.
Okay. Good morning. Magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. I don't know if you can hear me now. Can you hear me now? Can I get any response? Can you hear me? Okay. So, magandang umaga sa inyong lahat. Ikinagagalak ko sa inyong invitation for me to have a conversation Okay. Good morning to all of you. I hope you can hear me now. Okay. Good morning to all of you. Magandang umaga. Assalamualaikum to everyone. I'm happy to be with you today to share some thoughts and ideas as well as experiences on integrative assessment in the context of distance learning delivery modalities. Okay, I hope you can hear me. Looks like that the internet is not really pretty stable, so let's be patient because this is one of the challenges that we are facing right now. Okay, when it comes to distance learning delivery modalities or online learning. Okay, can I have the next slides, please? Okay, so my name is Richard Gonzales. Okay, I am here because I was invited and I want to have a conversation with you about integrative assessment in the context of distance learning delivery modalities. Next. So what is happening now? Okay, the COVID has really disrupted, please continue, has really disrupted our operations, okay, our society, and most of the affected sector is the education sector, okay. COVID has disrupted learning and assessments, in particular in terms of schooling. That's why we are now relying on flexible learning modalities to make progress and do no further harm. Okay, schools are still closed, and although we have been talking about a school in the future or school of the future, wherein everything is done online. Okay, we were not really prepared last year when the COVID struck us. Okay, as globally. Okay, so the online modality or the distance learning delivery modalities has moved from merely an option to now became the new normal, or it became the from an option to the mainstream. Okay, and with the spike of COVID-19 these times, okay, we are not so sure yet whether we will be able to go back to face-to-face classroom even next school year. So how do we know that our students in a flexible learning environment are learning? Okay, and how do we assess them? And however, okay, you may realize that this pandemic, this new modality of learning delivery has given us a lot of possibilities and given us opportunities to introduce new things, to introduce new ideas, and to experiment in the way we teach our classes, we teach our courses, and the way we assess our students. Next, please. So, and DepEd has given us, can you hear me? Sorry. Can I have next slide, please? Next slide, please. Okay, I'm back. I suppose so. Probably I'll just stop my cam so that I'll be able to. Okay. So can I have the next slide, please? Okay. So next. No, please. Can you go back a bit? back more. One more slide. Another slide. Yes. Okay. I would like to share these lessons from DepEd in terms on schooling, and DepEd has come out with the comparison between the old school and the new school that we have today, and the trigger, okay, is that the disruptions, okay, triggered the introduction of a term new school in our society, and the way we have or to do schooling or to introduce schooling is no longer face to face, but rather, okay, it became remote learning, flexible, differentiated, diverse, and performance oriented. And the perspective now became, instead of having lessons divided into subject areas or into units, it became integrative and reality based. And it followed that when we change our perspective and modality, we also have to change, okay, the way we assess, we measure, as well as we evaluate the performance of our students. Next. So how will we assess, okay, and grade our students in this new environment? DepEd blended learning approach, okay, requires us to have a flexible assessment and grading system. In fact, I'm doing a present study right now on the changes that's happening in terms of assessing students during the COVID. And hopefully I will share this with you in May when we have the International Conference of PMEA. So now learning and assessment, considering the change, okay, of delivery mode in terms of learning and assessment must be taken into account the different learning modalities chosen by students. Okay, in the introduction later a while ago, your schools division superintendent, the students can choose the modality that is more apt for each of them. And also, since quizzes, periodical exams, standardized tests, whether it's national, district, or even divisional standardized exams, are no longer feasible under the blended learning setup, okay, DepEd came out with a revision of its assessment and grading policy, okay, which I guess all of you are very much familiar about it. And the recent shift to distance learning modality has rendered traditional assessment tools, paper and pencil tests, difficult to administer, if not totally obsolete. Next, please. So, since we can escape, how will we do assessment? So, what work in face-to-face classroom is not working anymore in a online delivery mode. And of course, there are some contents in our subjects or in our modules that are best assessed in one way, and the other content is best assessed in other ways. So this really requires some kind of flexibility, okay? And it's important, but the most important thing is for us to match assessment with the delivery mode, okay, underscoring the learning outcomes or the learning objectives or behavioral objectives that we want to see, okay, in our students after each, okay, module or after each instructional unit. So what is happening? Okay, I'm sharing you the next picture, please. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a picture that is worth 1,000 words. Okay, can you relate with this? Okay, so naguguluhan ngayon mga teachers. Okay, and I apologize for using a female picture here. This is not being sexist, but I think I chose this because okay, I find that the woman in the picture can really show the emotions, okay, the behavior that most of us teachers, okay, are experiencing. Okay, napapakamot na lang tayo. Anong gagawin ko? Okay, that's the basic questions. Paanong gagawin ko? Anong gagawin ko? Hanggang kailan ito? So this is what we are experiencing right now. Okay, we are not only challenged in terms of teaching contents, okay, but we are also challenged in terms of delivery as well as in assessing students. Next. This is, okay, I would like you to reflect on this picture, okay? Is this scenario work in an integrative assessment where a bird, a monkey, a penguin, an elephant, a fish, a dolphin, and a dog are asked to climb a tree, and this is the way they are, okay, the assessor think it will be, okay, a way for them to be selected fairly, okay? And do you think this is fine? This is okay? In our context, this scenario will not work, okay? What I am saying here is that the basic thing that we have to consider now, considering the modality that we are in, is flexibility and adjustability, adaptability in terms of conducting student learning and conducting learning as well as assessment. Okay, next. So what is the focus of our conversation today? Okay, I would like to discuss what an assessment is, okay, what an integrative assessment is, how to develop integrative assessment, how to use them, and okay, I hope I'll be able to share some examples and models for integrative assessment. Integrative assessment in the graduate school, even in the undergrad, would require at least 2 or 3 or 4 hours for us to be able to digest, to be able to understand what integrative assessment is. Okay, remember, we in our undergraduate classes and even in our master's classes, we're only we have only been discussing what formative assessment, summative assessment, diagnostic assessment, okay, but not integrative assessment. Okay, so next please. So what assessment can do to our students? Okay, assessment is very important because it encourages current and future learning among our students. Okay, it also provides feedback on learning to both students and teachers. To us as teachers, okay, and assessment can guide us, okay, whether to determine whether our students are learning or not. It also documents or records what skills and competencies that our students have developed or learned. Okay? Of course, we do assessment. Ito yung pinaka-basic is that we do assessment because we want to provide grades, we want to rank our students, as well as, okay, so that we'll be able to share to parents how their students or how their children are performing. In fact, in a competency-based curriculum, okay, where students should not be graded or ranked, but rather should only be categorized as competent or not competent, in my experience, a lot of parents do not accept this, that they only want to see that their students are competent or their students are not competent, but they want to see, okay, whether their children are first rank, second rank, or the best in class, or the lowest, not the lowest in class, of course, okay, but this is very important. That's why we have to be very careful in terms of conducting assessment to our students, on our students' performance, as well as skills development. And of course, assessment would allow us to establish standards. Okay, what is our benchmark? Okay, PISA, for example, has established a benchmark of 40%. Okay, is that acceptable to us? okay, as Makatizens, or we want higher benchmark for achieving our standards. Next, please. So let's start with this. Okay, I should not be defining what an assessment is, because I know everyone knows this already, but I would just like to give a review on what an assessment is. It's a process wherein we define, we select, design, collect, analyze, interpret, and use information so that we'll be able to know exactly how our students are learning and developing. Okay, it's not only learning but rather developing. In fact, in the school that my son goes, okay, they are emphasizing on more on not on the learning aspect but on developing skills and values. Okay, right now, where the situation is, most parents are very much involved. Okay, and kids, okay, kids cannot kids have to rely on the support of older people, or I mean their sisters, their brother, their parents, etc., or their cousins at home. It is important to know more whether our students is developing a particular competency or a skill. Okay, and assessment is a systematic process wherein it allows us to make inferences about how well student learning matches our outcomes, our expectation for a particular lesson, unit, or a subject. Next, please. And there are so many ways. Okay, again, regardless of assessment categories, we need to follow 4 basic steps in developing an assessment. And okay, we cannot just simply do integrative assessment quickly. Okay, but we need to go to the basic. One, we need to clearly define. Okay, we need to clearly define and identify the learning outcomes. What are the MLCs? What are the most essential learning competencies that we want to assess? Okay. Second, we have to select the most appropriate tool to assess learning outcomes, to assess MLCs. Third, okay, we need to analyze the results, because just giving a test, leave it there, okay, and then you will come back only after a week or two, it's not very helpful at all. Okay, we need to ensure that we analyze the results so that we'll be able to proceed to the step 4 of adjusting and improving our instructional program. Okay, remember, when we see that 50% of our students did not master addition, okay, it's either there's a problem in terms of assessment or there's a problem in terms of our pedagogy or the way we teach addition. And so, the assessment results, okay, whether it's very high or it's very poor, okay, it gives us idea, or it's a clue for us to either adjust or improve, okay, in our instructional program. Next, please. And how can we assess? How can assessment show where learning is taking place? Okay, there are 4 assessment types here that I would like to share. Okay, one is the diagnostic assessment. The second one is the formative assessment, and the third one is summative, and the fourth one is integrative assessment. All these 4 assessments will result into particular learning or development of skills and competencies. Next. And there are 4 categories, okay? So we do diagnostic assessment. And when do we do diagnostic assessment? Okay, we do this at the start okay, of a lesson or a unit. Okay, it can be done informally, it can be done formally, but the thing is we should be able to make simple pre-assessment or pre-assess our students so that we will know where will we take off in terms of our instructional methodology and in terms of our programs, instructional programs. The second type of assessment is formative assessment, which we all know that this type of assessment is done while instructional program or instruction is going on, because formative assessment is meant to monitor how students are learning and for us to be able to provide immediate feedback to students as well as to ourselves as teachers. Summative assessment, which is more challenging to do now, particularly we don't have standardized periodic exams, we don't have school-wide exams or district-wide or division-wide exams. Okay, but summative assessment, as we all know, is something that is given at the end of an instructional unit, a module, at the end of a term, first quarter, second quarter, or okay, at the end of the year. Summative assessment, what we are more familiar with are the periodical assessment, wherein all students will have to do this. And the last and the fourth one is integrative assessment, okay, which is meant, and this is the focus of our conversation today, which seeks to combine students' learning from multiple modules and or levels into a single assessment, which is quite challenging. Okay, this is something that probably we have been doing it. We have been doing it before, but this time in this type of new normal schooling, the more we should be able to do integrative assessment, and I will explain why integrative assessment is very important for us to introduce, okay, during this time of learning learning environment. Next, please. Okay, this is another figure that I would like to show, because it actually shows how the relationship between diagnostic and formative, which is the diagnostic and formative, you would be able to provide assessment for learning, and diagnostic and summative are assessments that could provide assessment of learning, because diagnostic is pre-assessment and summative assessment is considered as post-assessment. And formative and integrative, this should be the things, okay, this should be the type of assessment that are done, okay, that should be done, meaning to say during learning process, okay. And summative and integrative, okay, are assessment that should be done or that should be given after learning. In other words, okay, integrative assessment, oh, nawawala daw ako. Am I back? Yeah, okay. So, okay, what I was saying before is that summative and integrative assessment are assessments that are done after learning. In other words, okay, since we cannot do standardized tests, the best option now is to have an integrative assessment. And why do we have to do an integrative assessment? Okay, I hope you can hear me. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so what is an integrative assessment? Okay, uh, probably you heard about authentic tests, okay, or authentic assessments, okay, and you have heard about authentic tools, okay, and learning oriented assessment or performance based assessment. May pagkakahawig ang lahat nito sa integrative assessment, because what happens in integrative assessment ay pinagsama-sama natin ang iba-ibang, okay, different assessment way for us to assess our students, putting them together so that this type of assessment will assess a number of learning outcomes together. Okay? It allows collaboration, and also it lessens the stress for both teachers and students. You can just imagine, okay, when we say assessing learning outcomes together, it also means that we are considering the learning outcomes of one or two or three or four or even five subjects together. Like science and health, as well as mathematics or environment, okay, courses could have just one integrative assessment. Okay, and then it will also assess, okay, a number of unit and standards together. So ibig sabihin, pinagsama-samang pagtataya o pagtutuos or pagpapahalaga or panukat ng kakayahan ng ating mga estudyante. Okay? And it choose a combination of assessment methods and for a particular outcome or related outcomes. Next, please. Okay? What's more, okay? They are designed to influence students' approaches. Okay? The good thing about integrative assessment is that the students are able to link different content and capacities into one particular process, product, or output. So in other words, okay, students can monitor their own development, okay, for effective learning and assessment strategies. And okay, the good thing about integrative assessment, students are able to realize what metacognitive cognition really is. Okay, meaning to say they're able to learn from their own learning process. Next, please. And again, an integrative assessment uses, okay, e-portfolio that can be incorporated together. Okay, I understand that at the end of a week, at the end of 2 weeks, okay, you collect portfolio of students. Okay, so instead of collecting five portfolios for 5 subjects, you may only collect 2 or 3 e-portfolios or portfolios from your students, because you are able to integrate, okay, math and practical arts learning competencies, okay, essential competencies, or health and science, or reading and writing and penmanship, for example, into just one integrative assessment. And the good thing about integrative assessment, it allows or it encourages self as well as peer review evaluation, and students are able to assess themselves and be able to articulate strategies. What is the best way for them to produce a product, to come out with an output, to be able to explain a phenomena, for example, etc. Okay, next. So in summary, okay, okay. So why use integrative assessment? Okay, this is very important. Okay, for us to appreciate what integrative assessment is. Assessing outcomes or assessment criteria separately, meaning to say English, math, science separately, may lead to one, assessment taking too long, okay, or there will be too many assessments, okay, and it could be a burden and stressful activity for both the learner and the teacher. And the students cannot experience this kind of authentic learning wherein they are able to establish relationship, why you need water for plants, for example, for plantitas there, or why we need sunlight and the temperature, etc. And giving no real assurance of the overall applied competence. So what I am saying here is that integrative assessment will make assessment shorter. It is less burden and stressful to both learners and teachers. It provides a wide continuum, a joint learning experience, and it gives real assurance of the total applied competence. Next, please. So in summary, integrative assessment is a learning theory describing a movement toward integrated lessons, helping students to make connections across curricula. Meaning to say, what I am saying is that in performance-based assessment, when you are asking one particular output, it should not only be output for math. It should not be output only for science. In particular, it should not only output for English, but rather students should be able to make connections across this subject, and they should be able to the students should be able to combine learning experiences or competencies from multiple modules. And students should be able to connect what they know and what they have learned in a span of multiple modules, and they are able to demonstrate higher order thinking skills. Which gives me to the next slide. Next slide, please. What you always have to remember when doing assessment? All of us, it's a shameful experience for a teacher who does not know the Bloom's taxonomy. What I am saying here, the Bloom's taxonomy is one of the Bibles that you should always have when we are assessing our students. I'm showing you two figures of Bloom's taxonomy. In the left figure, wherein remember is at the bottom, meaning to say of this sphere, and then where is a framework that is used mostly in traditional assessment. Wherein most teachers, because most teachers give paper and pencil tests, they normally just assessing remember, capacity, apply, and less on analysis, evaluation, and creation. Going to the right figure, wherein this is the way an integrative assessment is assessing the different cognitive skills of students, wherein they focus more on creating, evaluating, analyzing, and applying, and less on remembering and understanding. So in other words, integrative assessment allows us to measure or to assess more higher order thinking skills rather than lower order thinking skills. Next, please. Again, as I've mentioned, whatever the assessment modality that we have, we always have to follow. Can you do the 3 times click, please? This is how we design integrative assessment. We need to plan, which is the number one thing. We need to formulate, identify the learning outcomes. We need to plan as well in terms of developing assessment measures that we should give. And we create experiences we check it and then act. So just simply the PDCA framework. Okay, I know you have you know about this. Next, please. And next slide is on the framework of assessment approaches and method. The selected response items are the types of assessment approaches and methods that are commonly used in traditional assessment. Wherein MCQ, true or false matching, okay, and as well as the constructive response, these are all done using or via paper and pencil tests or written examination. This will not work in an integrative assessment, okay? But rather, the integrative assessment uses more of product-oriented, performance-based, and process-oriented assessments, just like writing an essay, journal, story point, portfolio, etc., or just oral presentation, musical recital, dramatic reading, athletic, and so on, or oral questioning, or conference process, or thinking aloud and learning aloud, etc. Okay, I will not discuss more of this because you have done this in your assessment 1 and 2 during your undergrad. Next slide, please. So, what kinds of assessment that can address program curricular level outcomes? Okay, again, excuse me. It's not only the tool of integrative assessment, but also on the kind of integrative assessment that we do. Okay, one integrative assessment is a term assessment or semester, like quarterly assessment, where students complete an assessment that demonstrate how they satisfy modular learning outcomes specific for the term or period. Okay, integrative assessment for first quarter integrative assessment. Okay, the second kind is the grade assessment. This is the integrative assessment for grade 1, for grade 2, for grade 3, and so on. But there is also what we call the vertical progression as well as horizontal progression. Like at the end of grade 6, before they will graduate elementary or primary, they should have this competency. They should be able to complete, to demonstrate learning against learning outcomes that should be intended for grades 1 to grade 6. That's a vertical progression, and horizontal among all grade 2 students, and so on. Third kind is the final or heavily weighted integrative assessment. This is more of the summative assessment, where students complete a part, not necessarily all, of the overall module assessment strategy. And the last one is assessment by submission of personal evidence against sets of learning outcomes. This is where, okay, this is the heavy part of integrative learning. Just give me a message if I am going over time. Okay, just let me know. Next slide, please. So now, because we have limited time, I would give you an examples of integrative assessment that can access program curricular level outcomes. Okay, I will discuss these five examples. Okay, this is not exhaustive, this is not comprehensive. There are other examples of integrative assessment, but let me just focus on these 5. If you can use these 5 during this quarter, and then another 5 types of integrative assessment in your next quarter assessment, then that would be good. Okay. There are 5 examples, and I will try to discuss a major project, a capstone portfolio, a patchwork assessment, synoptic exams, and learning journals. Next, please. So what is a major project? Okay, a major project, which is very common, like, you know, like, oh, this may project ako sa science, my project ako sa math. Okay, instead of simply saying a project in science, a project in math, a project in music, then probably 3 teachers will sit down and come out with a major project, okay, that would measure similar or equitable or equal learning, essential learning competencies. Okay, what I am saying here is that when we do integrative assessment, okay, it's not only putting assessment into just single assessment, but it also requires teachers to work together. Okay? Hindi kanya-kanya. Magsama-sama din kayo. Okay? That's the reason why, okay, it's called integrative assessment. Pinagsama-sama, pinaghalo-halo, okay, pagtataya, pagtutuos, or pagpapahalaga kung ano man natutunan yung mga mag-aaral. And a major project enables students to create their own questions around a topic, collect, organize, evaluate information, etc. So, for example, okay, for example, we would like to know students' perspective or understanding what COVID is. Okay, ang daming subject na pwedeng pumasok diyan. Okay, yung math, how many days dapat ang nasa quarantine? So 14 days. Pag 5 days kang hindi nag-quarantine, so anong mangyayari? So how many days na hindi ka na-quarantine? Mga ganon-ganon. So students may demonstrate in their investigation to different experience, including reading, writing projects, information data gathering and organizing projects, science projects, excuse me, investigation project, design projects, problem-solving decision-making projects, argumentation projects, and real-world or tempting projects. Okay. Okay. In reading and writing project is you can give them one reading material. Okay. Probably how climate change is affecting how climate change is affecting our environment. So ang daming pwedeng pumasok na yon. Okay, not only science, but temperature, including practical arts we're in, including values we're in. We need to ask students to interpret behaviors of their community, okay, even in social science, like paano magtatapon ang yung komunidad ng kanilang basura. Will it affect climate change? So they need to do all this. So these are some examples of major projects that these are not new, by the way. These are not new ways of major projects. We have been asking this from our students even before COVID, okay, even in our traditional face-to-face environment. But this time, okay, what is being asked when we say integrative assessment is that teachers, okay, should sit down together, collaborate, and identify what could be a major project wherein students can show the essential learning competencies for 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or even 5 five subjects, or 1 or 2 or 3 modules, etc. The second one is what are capstone portfolio? Okay, the capstone portfolio project has to be showcased. I think this is the one that you normally collect. Okay, that you normally collect at the end of each module. I'm hearing something. Am I connected? Am I connected? Okay. So portfolio. Yeah. So capstone portfolio project is a showcase students' best work in their major subjects. Okay, or all their modules. Okay, in all their modules. Okay, the portfolio should include a variety of types, the exams, research, group reflection, outsourcing. In other words, when we say capstone portfolio, it is the portfolio, the type of portfolio that you require your students to submit at the end of each module, but this time it should be integrated Okay, it should be a portfolio of not only a single subject, but a portfolio that can be graded or that can be evaluated by one or two or three or even five subjects. With capstone option, students build a portfolio of work, okay, uh, throughout their module experience to show what they have learned and how it applies in the real world. Okay, there is always this, and we have to romanticize this in integrated assessment about real world experience, authentic assessment, because students and educators, right? Okay, there's an echoing. Okay. Oh yes, there's an echoing, so I don't know how will it work. Okay, probably I'll refer. Okay. May echo pa rin, pero I don't know if it's on my side or not. May echo pa rin ba? Okay. Okay, can you hear me now? I think there's no more echo. Okay, may echo pa rin. Pasensya na po. This is the challenge. Can you hear me clearly? Okay. Maraming salamat. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. After the capstone, okay, it's a patchwork assignment. Okay. Probably it's just the word of patchwork assignment. Okay. But really, this is the idea of putting small, complete, individual assessment. Okay. And put them together, meaning to say it's just like a jigsaw puzzle. Okay, you have you have one complete assessment that you have to put in, to put it and fit it into another bigger assessment or into another assessment, and also and are stitched together into something new or a patchwork. Okay, meaning to say pinagtatahi mo, pinagtatagpi-tagpi. Okay, so meron kang assessment A, assessment B, assessment C, assessment D, and then pinagtagpi-tagpi mo mga to. Okay, and examples of these are ongoing narratives, okay, collage or pictures or evidence story of collage incidents. Okay, this assessment can include formative, summative assessment because it enables critical learning moments either at the time or respectively to be identified or consolidated. In other words, ang patchwork assessment is you're just consolidated pieces of standalone assessment and putting them together. So, ito yung pinagsama-sama. Ito yung konsepto ng integrative assessment. Pinagsama-sama mo. Like, instead na you're treating small pieces of assessment individually, put them back so that it will make a complete whole. Okay? So, it's just like when you are making pizza, for example. And so, this is for the synthesis ability. The synthesis ability The synthesis ability. The synthesis ability will come in, and this is how we are able to my okay. This is how we are able to really see how students can create, can evaluate, and think critically to be able to synthesize and apply real world situation from the basic knowledge and skills they have developed, they have understood, and they have learned. My feedback po kasi, I don't know where that feedback is coming from. Okay na ba? Wala, meron pa rin. Okay. Meron pa rin. I already brought out my cell phone, far from me, but I don't know where this. Sorry for all the disruptions, but my echo friend, I don't know where that echo is coming from. Can you hear me? Okay. So yes. I've been talking about the patchwork assignment. So if you ask an assignment from a student, make sure that as teachers in a school, for the same grade or same subject or the same module, make sure that you collaborate in terms of giving assessment. And then you just have to put them together. And this is in the form of it could be provided also, it could be shown in the portfolio. Okay. So the next example. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. And what is important aspect of patchwork assessment according to Winter? It is personalized. It provides continuous feedback, and sticking together cements and enhance learning. Okay. Ibig sabihin, the students are able to synthesize. Okay. Nakikita nila yung value of one assignment with the other assignment or with the third assignment when they are asked to put them together. Like for example, in an offer, you ask them to or math. Okay, you ask them to draw 2D and 4D, and then later on, can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me. Okay. If you can hear me, I hope the feedback is that they're able to put things together. For example, in the first in an art lesson, you ask them to draw, or in math lesson, you ask them to draw planes points, or like square, triangle, and so on. And in the second one, you ask them to do an artwork wherein they make use of cans of sardines, or bottles of soft drinks, or tetra packs of milk, or drinks. Okay, so from plain to solid. Okay, and then from 2D to 3D. Okay, ito yung example of trying to cement and enhance what they have learned. Okay, in math, and then convert it and share it with arts, and it could also be in terms of in practical arts, wherein they're making use of recyclable materials for the artwork. Okay, and the last one, the next slide talks about synaptic exams. Okay, and this is synaptic exams. Okay, is normally done when you are certifying. Okay, and probably this will be done when at the grade 6 level, wherein at different point of the level of the module, we give short assessments just to know exactly the skills gained across curriculum standards or module standards. We don't need, in synaptic exams, we don't need to measure all competencies, but rather choose one to show how they have performed at a particular module, at a particular level, or particular grade. Okay? Synaptics are usually studied at the end or towards the end of the module or program. In other words, random yung bibigyan ng exams. But putting them together, pinagtatag-tatag nyo naman yung results, and this is where you'll be able to exactly and you'll be able to know exactly how the students do their work. Okay. Please let me know if I still have time so that I could adjust my presentation. Okay. Next slide, please. The last one is learning journals. It's our learning journal. And this is very important. And this is very important for kids. Okay, not necessarily even grade 1. I remember my son, having to have a weekend journal, like what did your family do during the weekend, and he has to give 1 or 2 sentences. Okay, we went to the beach, we collect shells, for example, and my dad, went to the mall, and so on. So they try to express, what they thought, the experiences, the observations, their reflections, in the form of a short essay or a paragraph that would document or that would show the real world experience. Learning journals can be travel journals. Okay, of course, kids cannot travel now. School journals they cannot do now, but probably a school online journal. What experiences did they have in terms of online project journal, family journal, physical and even nutrition journal, medical journal, for example, and gratitude journal. This is very important in values education. Like, write a paragraph how you showed gratitude or you are thankful for a particular thing, object, or experience. And this is how, here you are not only not only be able to assess what values have been developed, but you are also able to measure the writing skills, in terms of grammar, in terms of word use, in terms of synonyms and antonyms, etc. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay. In all the integrative assessment, and I will just share this in passing so that we have more time for question and answer. Is the role of rubrics in an integrative assessment. Okay. An integrative assessment is not complete without the development of a scoring rubrics or a rubrics. Okay. And we all know what rubrics are, okay? And these are essentials, okay? And they contain essential criteria for the task or appropriate level of performance, okay? Next slide, please. So I will just show this quickly, okay? Okay, wait. Okay, sorry. And there are guidelines of creating rubrics. So anyway, I'll be sharing this. I'll be sharing these slides to you, to all of you. Okay, I'll give the final version because I would like to put the references before sharing it to everyone, and I will tell Neil and the group to share the final one after I have reviewed and cleaned and put the references. Okay, so there are guidelines in creating rubric, of course, focusing on important aspect, matching the type of rating and the purpose of assessment. It should be written, it should be shared, and it should be clearly and specified. The characteristics and traits used in the scale should be clearly and specifically defined. And okay, it should be simple. Okay, and there are, next please, and there are types of rubrics. Okay, these are the holistic rubrics and analytical rubrics. Okay, this could be another entire 1 hour sharing and conversation with you on how to develop rubrics. Okay, I just put this as part of my presentation because integrative assessment is not possible and complete without rubrics. Next, please. Okay, these are examples of holistic rubrics. Okay, analytical rubrics, you will notice. Okay, and then next, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so what are the challenges? Okay, and probably I'm quite near to end my presentation. Okay, what are the challenges posed by integrative assessment and even assessment in an online distance learning delivery mode? Okay, one, okay, there is such thing as, the first is always plagiarism. Okay, honesty, cheating is always rampant in terms of assessment. Okay, of course, we now have the hidden curriculum, the Google Wikipedia. Okay, and if we are not clever enough as teachers, okay, a student can come out with a very good presentation, okay, which are entirely from Google or from Wikipedia. Okay, honesty, okay, and plagiarism is one of the main challenges in integrative assessment and any assessment in an online delivery mode, okay, that we have. Okay, second is authentication. Okay, the reliability and validity of the assessment. Third is, for teachers, okay, it requires new skills and knowledge, upskilling of assessors. This is on the part of teachers. And the fourth one is coming out with a real world that should be problem or not. Okay, here you should be able to know what is fact and fantasy. Fantasy has no place in integrative assessment. Remember, one characteristic of integrative assessment is authenticity, authentic assessment. So it should always be real world problem. Okay, and the third one, and the last one is rubrics for collaboration. Is the consistency of standards of desired learning outcomes. Next slide, please. Okay, what is the greatest challenge in assessing students in the world? Okay, globally. Okay, this is a picture and tells a lot of things. Okay, the teacher is there, even in a face-to-face situation. The teachers, the students are, we are not cheating, we are just consulting. Okay, We are not cheating. We are not copying. We're just modeling from an original work. We are not cheating. We are not plagiarizing. We are just trying to see whether that article or that project can be done, okay, or can be replicated. Next, please. Okay. What should we encourage in our learning spaces? Okay. Okay. Why? We empathize. We provide new stimulus. Okay. If we fail, we redesign. Okay. We provide samples to our students. Okay. We provide new ideas. We make stories. Okay. We make stories to make sure that our storyline is aligned with the skills that we are wanting to develop or the skills that are needed. And how will you all do this? Okay. Resilience to stay on track. Okay. Do not lose hope. And I like this to end my presentation, because what matters in the learning space right now is you being the teacher, okay? And your work and the way you deliver, okay, really matters. And the skills that are needed should be the essential competencies, but make sure that it defines and make a story, and it provides, okay, resilience for the students and for teachers to stay on track. Okay, again, okay, integrative assessment is very useful because it lessens the burden and stress for students and teachers. Okay, I think I'm now in my last 2 slides. Okay, next slide, please. My final takeaway, okay, is distance learning delivery modes are centered on the interest of the learner. Okay. Learners should be motivated to become an active participants, learning at their own pace. Okay. And teachers should ensure that learning is more personalized, more humane than standardized. We cannot do standardized things anymore. Okay. Because here, okay, we have a student, okay, who has a very strong connectivity. That's why, okay, this internet connectivity is also an issue in terms of equity, okay, as well as equality. Learning assessment process should be aligned and always integrated. And lastly, parents' engagement is the key to success of flexible online learning. So what are the keywords? We collaborate, we take control, we provide challenge, we ensure engagement, we make sure it's relevant, and it's always founded on being personalized or more human. Okay, last slide. Yeah, I'm just sharing this, okay, to join us for a webinar on skills development, okay, after COVID. Okay, I'm just sharing you this. You can register now. The link is there. You can copy and then register later. And my last slide is, of course, okay, my last slide is on. Next slide, please. Okay. Okay, saying thank you, and you may now ask your questions. Okay, I hope the moderators will be able to provide questions or time for everyone to ask questions. Maraming salamat po. Magandang umaga. Good morning. Assalamualaikum to all. Thank you. I just don't know whether there is a question and answer portion. So, and how the questions will be asked, so that I'll be able to clarify. But okay, I hope you have taken my email, my LinkedIn, as well as my Twitter, so that you can always share with me, okay, the your observations, your comments, and your understanding after this presentation. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much to our guest speaker, Dr. Richard Gonzales, for a great discussion on integrative assessment on the context of distance learning delivery modalities. Looking at our comment section, sir, we are not receiving any question so far. I guess our participants have greatly captured the essence of your discussion today. They are just sending their thank you for sharing your expertise to us this morning. So thank you very much, Dr. Richard Gonzales.
You're
Our
welcome,
dear
and I
teachers,
hope to see you again.
yes, sir, we'll surely see you again. Our dear teachers, kindly proceed to the division lock session with your respective education program supervisor by joining through the Zoom link provided for each subject area.